I accepted the stranger's package only because the courier looked like he would snap in half if he had to face one more rejection. He stood at my door in a soaked green jacket, breathing through his mouth. He held a long cardboard parcel with both hands, staring not at me, but at my apartment number plate. My plate said 12. The shipping label read, Building 5, Entrance 1, Apartment 0. I told him there was no such apartment in our building. He nodded so quickly, as if he'd heard it 100 times before, and thrust his phone toward me. On the screen was the delivery route, the map, my building, my entrance, and a red dot pinned exactly to my door. Below that was the recipient's name, Ivan Kowalski. My name. I tried to joke then, saying the app must have glitched after an update, that I lived in 12, not 0, and that he should take the box back to the warehouse. The courier looked at me as if I'd asked him to step into a burning building and said quietly, I already tried. It keeps returning to the route. That phrase is where it all began. Before that day, I had no reason to believe in strange apartments, empty addresses, or the urban legends people whispered about in the elevator line. I had moved into this building just a week before. It was an ordinary place. 15 stories, a gray facade, 2 entrances, the smell of dampness near the trash chute, old mailboxes, a chipped elevator call button, and grandmothers on the bench who knew more about the tenants than the management company. I rented a small corner unit on the 12th floor with a low kitchen ceiling and a view of the neighboring mall's roof. The price was below market, but not low enough to be suspicious. The landlady said she was in a hurry to move in with her daughter. The realtor said the building was fine. The neighbors were quiet, there were no roaches, and the elevator was new. The only thing that surprised me upon moving in was the keychain. It held 2 identical keys for the door, 1 small mailbox key, a magnetic fob, and a gray plastic tag with no writing, only a stamped 0. I asked the realtor what it was for. He didn't even look at it, just said, maintenance, don't remove it. I figured it was for the breaker box or the basement door. A couple of days later, I wanted to throw the tag away because it was cluttering my pocket, but for some reason, I didn't. I just dropped the keys into a bowl by the door and forgot about them. The first few days were normal. I unpacked, set up the internet, fought with the ISP, bought curtains, and tried to get used to the sound of the store's ventilation humming outside at night. I barely saw the neighbors. To the left lived an elderly woman, Alina Kunis, one of those people who opens her door before you've even reached yours. To the right was a technical room with no number, closed off by a white metal door. I assumed it was a utility closet or a cleaner's room. Sometimes it smelled of wet dust, but in an old building, that didn't seem strange. That Thursday, I was working from home. Around 2:30, the intercom buzzed briefly, like someone had pressed the button and immediately let go. I picked up. A male voice said, Delivery, Apartment 0. I told him he had the wrong entrance. The voice was silent for a moment, then asked, Are you Ivan Kowalski? That was unpleasant. I asked how he had my name. He said, It's on the order. I hadn't ordered anything. Just in case, I checked my apps. Grocery delivery, marketplaces, nothing. The intercom buzzed again. Open up, please. I'll just come up and verify. There was no aggression in the courier's voice, only exhaustion, and such a suppressed anxiety that I pressed the button. A minute later, the elevator stopped on my floor. The doors opened and a guy in his 20s stepped out. Delivery jacket, thermal bag over his shoulder, a long box tucked under his arm, wrapped in clear tape. He walked to my door, stopped, looked at the number, then at his phone, then back at the number. See? I said. It's 12. He didn't argue. He just turned the screen toward me. There was the order with the address. Street, building, unit, entrance. Everything was correct. Apartment 0. Recipient, Ivan Kowalski. My phone number. Delivery window, 2 to 3 p.m. I didn't order this, I said. The courier shrugged. I either have to hand it over or process a rejection. But the rejection wouldn't go through. He showed me a line in the app. The reject button was grayed out. Below it, a red warning read, Recipient is at the address. I asked what was in the box. He said he didn't know. Everything was packed at the sorting center, and the contents weren't listed. I said I wasn't taking the stranger's item. The courier tried to hit the rejection button again. The phone hung for a second, then gave a short beep, and the status changed to Arrival Confirmed. The guy turned pale. "Did you press it?" I asked. He shook his head. The box in his hands clicked softly, like cooling plastic. I heard that click perfectly, even though the elevator was humming in the hall. The courier quickly thrust the box at me. "Listen, take it. You can return it through support later. My route won't close." I wanted to refuse, but he looked like he was about to drop it and bolt. I took the box. It was unexpectedly heavy and warm, as if it had been pulled not from a warehouse, but from a heated room. The courier shoved his phone at me to sign. I said, "I'll write that I accepted it by mistake." He replied, "There's no comment field." On the screen was only a white box and a signature line. I signed with a quick scribble. The status changed to "delivered." The courier exhaled with such relief, as if he'd paid off a debt rather than delivered a package. He almost ran to the elevator. Just as he stepped inside, he turned back and asked, "Are you sure you don't have a 0?" I said, "No." He looked past my shoulder at the white technical door to my right and said quietly, "Strange. It's on the map right there." The elevator doors closed. I was left in the hallway with the box. The white technical door was closed, as always. It had neither a handle nor a number, just an old smudge where a sticker had been torn off. At home, I put the parcel on the kitchen table and spent 5 minutes just staring at the shipping label. Everything was printed normally. No errors, no smudged letters, no mystical symbols. City index, street, building, unit, entrance, apartment 0. My name, my phone. The sender wasn't listed. Instead, it read Internal Transfer Warehouse. I took a photo of the label to send to support, and only then did I cut the tape. Inside was another box, gray, dense, with no markings. In it lay an object resembling an old intercom handset, but without an open button. Yellowed plastic, a short cord, a metal plate with 2 screws, and a small paper tag tied with a string. The tag read, "Subscriber 0. Do not reconnect." I remember laughing, not because it was funny, but because my brain was trying to frame this as nonsense. A part for an old intercom, a warehouse error, a coincidence. I even said it out loud. Well, of course. Then my phone vibrated. A notification from the delivery app I usually used for food. "Your order has been delivered. Rate your delivery to apartment 0. I opened the app. A new order appeared in my history, even though I hadn't made one. The number was long, with no store name. Contents, closed shipment, 1 unit. Recipient, Ivan Kowalski. Address, apartment 0. Payment method, not required. Signature, mine. I tried to delete the order from the history, but there was no such button. I wrote to support. At first, a bot replied. It cheerfully announced that the order was successfully delivered and asked me to select a reason for my inquiry. I chose, "This is not my order." The bot asked to confirm my phone number. I did. The bot wrote, "An active address, apartment 0, is registered to this number." I dialed the operator. I listened to music for 10 minutes. Then a girl with a very flat voice came on the line. I explained the situation. The order wasn't mine. Apartment 0 didn't exist. The courier made a mistake. The address in the app was wrong. The girl asked for the order number, then was silent for a long time. I could hear her keyboard clicking in the background. Then she said, "Yes, I see. The order has been handed to the recipient." I said that wasn't true. She clarified, "Are you Ivan Kowalski?" I replied, "Yes." "Is this your signature?" she asked. I said, "Formally, yes, but I accepted it in error." She was silent again, then said, "The address is confirmed in the system." I asked, "By whom?" She said, "By you." My blood ran cold. Not scared, just cold. The way you feel when you realize a mechanism has turned on somewhere nearby, and it doesn't care what you say. I asked her to correct the address to apartment 12. The girl said she could open a ticket for investigation, but she didn't have the authority to change the address manually. Why? I asked. She replied, "The address is closed pending verification." I repeated, "What do you mean, closed?" She quickly corrected herself. "I mean, the order is closed pending status verification." But I had already heard the first words clearly. The address is closed. She did create the ticket. The ticket number arrived by SMS. At the end of the message was the phrase, "Do not pass the shipment to third parties until the verification is complete." I looked at the intercom handset on the table. It lay there, calm, dead, ridiculous. I decided to take it to the trash chute. Not throw it in the bin, but just leave it nearby so the cleaner or someone from the management company would take it in the morning. I stepped out into the hallway and put the gray box by the white technical door. At that moment, Alina Kunis peeked out from her apartment. "Is that for you again?" she asked. I was surprised. "Again?" She pursed her lips. "Yes, they bring them here sometimes, but usually not to you." I asked, "To whom?" Alina Kunis looked at the white door and said, "They deliver where it's written." Then she quickly closed her door. I went back inside with the unpleasant feeling that I had just missed an important conversation.
That evening, I tried to distract myself. I worked, made dinner, watched videos, but I kept catching myself listening to the hallway. Around 11, someone walked past my door. The footsteps stopped at the technical room. Then I heard a sound like a box being dragged across the floor. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. The box was gone from the white door. I felt a wave of relief. They took it, so it really was a mistake. I had almost calmed down when, at 11:47 p.m., the intercom buzzed again. I didn't realize until later why that number stuck in my memory. I had just looked at the phone screen, 2347. The intercom handset was lying in the hallway, and a quiet electrical crackle was coming from it. I picked it up. A male voice said, "Delivery, apartment 0. I hung up. 10 seconds later, it buzzed again. Then again. Then the courier called my mobile. The number was hidden. I didn't want to answer, but I did. "Ivan Kowalski?" a different voice asked. Not the guy from earlier. "I have an order for you. I'm at the entrance." I said I wasn't expecting anything, and that decent deliveries don't happen after 11 at night. He replied, "My route says to deliver urgently by 12:20 a.m. That number hit harder than it should have. I asked what the address was. He said, "Building P, entrance 2, apartment 0. I said, "There is no such apartment." He replied, "I know, that's why I'm calling you." I turned the phone off. The intercom rang again. I didn't open it. For 2 minutes, the hallway was quiet. Then the elevator came to my floor on its own. I heard the soft strike of the doors, footsteps, the rustle of a bag. Someone knocked on my door, quietly, 3 times. I went to the peephole. A courier in a black jacket with no logo was standing there. His face was hidden by a hood. He held a box just as long as the one from the day before. He didn't look into the peephole. He looked at my 12 plate, then raised his hand and stuck a small white sticker next to it. I didn't open it. The courier stood there for a moment, turned around, and walked to the elevator. The cab didn't arrive. The elevator doors had been open the whole time, and the light inside wasn't on. He stepped into the dark cab. The doors closed, and only then did the elevator spring to life. I stood by the door for another minute, then unlocked it and looked out. On my door, next to the number 12, was a sticker with a barcode. Below it, in tiny print, it read, "Apt 0. Recipient confirmed." I ripped it off immediately. Under the sticker, a rectangular mark remained on the door, like from an old faded plaque.
I scrubbed at it with a damp cloth for 5 minutes. The mark wouldn't go away. In the morning, I decided to go to the management company. No night couriers, no support chats. I needed to understand what was behind the white door to the right of my apartment, and why couriers thought it was an apartment. At the office, they met me without interest. The woman at the counter spent a long time searching for my building, then my entrance, and finally printed out a floor plan. On the plan for the 12th floor, there were apartments 11, 12, 13, and a technical room with no number. I pointed to the technical room. Deliveries are being brought here as if it's apartment 0. The woman looked at me with irritation. That's impossible. I showed her the photos of the label, the sticker, and the order status. She frowned, then called an engineer. The engineer turned out to be a dry man in his 50s, who spoke as if every word cost money. He looked at the photos, then at the plan. "We don't have any 0 apartments," he said. I asked if they could open the technical room. He replied that the contractor had the keys, and the room had been mothballed after the intercom lines were repaired. "When was the repair?" I asked.
He said last year. Then he suddenly corrected himself. Or was it the 11th? I'd have to check the archive. I noticed he didn't want to check the archive, so I asked for a written statement that apartment 0 did not exist in the building. The woman at the counter perked up. "The statement costs a fee, it takes 3 business days, apply through your personal account." I asked if it could be done faster. She gave me a form. In the object of inquiry field, I wrote, "Apartment 0 is missing." When I handed the form back, the woman didn't take it right away. She looked at the wording and said, "You shouldn't write it that way." I asked why. She said the system might pull it up as an object. I didn't understand. She took a pen, crossed out "Apartment 0 is missing," and wrote herself, "Verification of incorrect delivery." Then she stamped it. The stamp had the date, a number, the company name, and a tiny line at the bottom. "Accepted for verification." I walked out even angrier than I was frightened. It all looked like stupid bureaucracy. The app made a mistake. The management company is afraid of liability. The couriers want to close their routes, and I turned out to be a convenient pin on the map through which they are tossing the problem. At home, a box was waiting for me. That same first gray box that I had left by the technical door that night. It was on the kitchen table, not by the door, not on the floor, but right on the table where I had unpacked it. The intercom handset was lying next to it. The wire was stretched out toward the outlet, even though it had no plug. I didn't get scared immediately. First, I checked the door. The locks were closed, the windows were closed, the balcony too. Then I checked my phone. No new notifications. A second label had appeared on the box. It was pasted over the first one. The address was the same, but instead of "delivered," it said "pending internal transfer." Below was a line, "Do not open after the first signal." I stood in the kitchen and realized the most rational thing to do. Take the box, go downstairs, throw it in the container, and get out of the house for at least a day. But instead, I did what people do when their brain clings to the last normal detail. I called support again. This time, an operator connected almost immediately. The voice was male, muffled. I gave the order number.
He said, "Wait, verification is in progress." I said the order was back in my home, even though I had taken it out. The operator replied, "The shipment must not leave the address." I said, "What address?" He replied, "Apartment 0. I snapped, "There is no such apartment." The line went quiet. Then the operator said very slowly, "Do not repeat the full address." I went silent. He continued in his usual official tone. "Your inquiry has been transferred to the closed deliveries department. Until verification is complete, do not open the door to couriers after the phrase 'pickup closed.' Do not scan the label again, and do not pass the box to neighbors." I asked what this department was. He said, "Technical." I asked for his name. He disconnected. A minute later, an SMS arrived. Confirmation code 0413. Do not tell anyone. I hadn't requested a code. At
that moment, a short ring came from the gray intercom handset on the table. Not from my normal handset in the hallway, but from that old yellow disconnected one. It lay on the table, connected to nothing, and it was ringing. Once, twice, 3 times. I didn't want to pick it up, but it rang so insistently and so matter-of-factly that my hand reached out on its own. I picked it up. Inside there was no voice, only hallway noise. The elevator, the distant slamming of a door, the creak of the trash chute, someone's breathing. Then a woman said very quietly, "Ivan Kowalski, are you home? The courier is waiting." I threw the handset onto the table. It hissed for a second, then went silent. I took a regular kitchen knife and cut the wire of the old handset. It was stupid, but I felt better. Not for long. At 1:40 p.m., the delivery app on my phone opened by itself. I hadn't touched it. The screen just lit up, and an order appeared in front of me. Status, delivered to recipient. Delivery time, 1:40 p.m. Confirmation method, personal signature. Recipient, Ivan Kowalski, apartment 0. The signature wasn't my scribble. On the screen, neat letters were visible. Ivan Kowalski resides at 2 addresses. I felt my fingers start to go numb. A second later, a new notification came. Rate your delivery quality. I tapped problem with order. The app gave an error. Order cannot be disputed. Recipient was inside. It didn't clarify inside what. I printed the screenshots at my neighbor's place. Alina Kunis didn't want to let me in at first, but when she saw my face, she opened the door in silence. Her apartment smelled of medicine and fried onions. While an old printer buzzed in the room, she looked at the screenshots and pressed her lips tighter together. Then she said, "A boy used to live there." I asked, "Where there?" She nodded at the wall behind which the white technical door was. Only that was a long time ago, before the repairs, before the numbers were changed. I said that according to the plan, it was a technical room. She chuckled. "We don't have a lot of things according to the plan. My husband also died in a sanatorium according to the plan, but I heard him in the elevator for 3 days after the funeral." I didn't know how to respond. She took an old house ledger from the china cabinet. Not a real one, of course, but her own notebook, where she recorded the residents, phone numbers, and who moved in when. She flipped through it for a long time, then showed me a page from 10 years ago. Apartments 11, 12, 13. Between 12 and 13 was a small line written in pencil. 0. Do not open. "Who wrote this?" I asked. Alina Kunis said, "I don't remember. Maybe me, maybe the building manager." Back then there was confusion. Some people arrived, took down the plaques, changed the intercom, then said that an extra subscriber had been removed. I asked, "And the boy?" She was silent for a long time, then answered, "Couriers brought him food. His mother worked nights. He was always ordering something. Batteries, wires, toys. Then they moved out. Or were moved out. I'm not sure anymore." She closed the notebook abruptly and told me not to bring her the box. "Why?" I asked. She looked at the door. "Because people only accept someone else's packages once. The second time, they consider you an address." That evening, I did what I should have done immediately. I packed a backpack, laptop, documents, charger, and decided to spend the night at a friend's. I left the box on the kitchen table and wrapped the old handset in a towel and put it in the sink. Before leaving, I took photos of everything. The box on the table, the labels, the handset, the sticker mark on the door. When I stepped into the hallway, the white technical door was ajar, a narrow slit, no more than 2 centimeters wide. It was dark behind it. I knew for a fact that it had been closed in the morning. I stepped closer, though I didn't want to. From the slit, it smelled of cardboard, dust, and hot thermal tape, like a parcel collection point. At eye level, inside, a piece of paper was taped. Not to the door, but there, behind the slit, on the inner wall. I shone my phone light on it. On the paper was a list. Many lines, printed in small font. In each line, a surname, an order number, a status.
I had seen some of the surnames on the mailboxes. At the bottom was the last line: Ivan Kowalski, accepted as responsible neighbor. I recoiled. The door slowly closed by itself, without a slam, without a creak. It just moved back into place. I almost ran to the elevator, but it was stuck on 0. Not on the 1st, not on the 12th. On the small display above the doors, the number 0 was glowing. There was no such number on the buttons. I pressed call several times. The display went out, then lit up with 12. The doors opened. Inside the cab stood a box, long, cardboard, with my name on it. I took the stairs. I ran from the 12th floor to the 1st so fast that my side started stitching by the 3rd.
On the ground floor, by the mailboxes, stood the very first courier, the one from the day, but without the box. He looked even worse. His eyes were red, his lips dry, his hands shaking. "Did you accept it?" he asked. I said I didn't accept anything. He shook his head. "The app shows you did." I showed him my backpack and said I was leaving. He suddenly grabbed my sleeve. "Don't leave with the keys." I pulled my hand away. "What?" He nodded at my keychain. The gray tag with the 0 was hanging next to the magnetic fob. I hadn't noticed before that it had become warmer. The courier said, "If you leave with the key, the address will go with you." I called him a psycho and walked out of the building. Outside, it was stuffy and smelled of wet asphalt. I walked about 20 meters and realized my phone was vibrating again. Notification: courier could not hand over order. Recipient has left the address. Next, repeat delivery scheduled. Next, address updated. I opened the map. The red dot was no longer on my building. It was moving with me, slowly, jerkily, as if the app wasn't tracking geolocation, but was moving the address itself along the sidewalk. I stopped. The dot stopped. I took a step back. The dot took a step back. And then Yana Butt called me. I only knew her from the district chat. She wrote short notes about building problems, posted photos of leaks, broken courtyards, illegal barriers. A couple of days before, I had left a message in the chat about the strange deliveries, and she had asked for my number. I picked up. She didn't say hello. She said immediately, "You haven't signed anything since the second call, have you?" I replied no. "Did you open the box?" she asked. I said yes. There was silence on the line. Then Yanabut said, "Then don't throw away the label, and don't say the full address out loud, especially twice in a row." I asked how she knew all this. She answered, "I rented an apartment with the same tag." After those words, I realized for the first time that what was happening to me wasn't a unique accident, but a part of something that had already happened before me and would happen after. She answered, "Nobody." To where? The connection cut off. I went to my friend's anyway. I needed to see a normal person, a normal kitchen, a normal couch. My friend lived in another district, in a new building, where the entrance smelled of coffee and plastic, and the elevator didn't creak. I didn't tell him everything, only about the mistaken delivery and the app glitch. He laughed, said I was overworked, and poured me tea. I almost believed him. Almost, until at 12:20 a.m., someone rang his intercom. My friend was surprised. I'm not expecting anyone. He picked up the handset. I already knew what I would hear. From downstairs, a calm male voice said, "Delivery for Ivan Kowalski, apartment 0. My friend looked at me and stopped smiling. I grabbed the handset and shouted that I wasn't there. The voice answered, "Address updated." At that moment, a notification popped up on my friend's phone from an unknown app he didn't have. Confirm receipt for responsible neighbor. We didn't open the door. The courier rang 4 more times, then left. But in the morning, the box was standing at the door. Not in the hallway, not by the elevator, but right at the door of my friend's apartment. On the label was my name and a new address. His building, his entrance, his floor. Apartment 0. My friend turned pale and told me to leave. I didn't take offense. I would have said the same thing in his place. Returning to my building, I saw a white van without logos at the entrance. 2 people were standing nearby, a woman in a gray coat and a man with a folder. The woman approached me first. "Ivan Kowalski?" I nodded. She introduced herself as Anna Act. No title, no organization, just Anna Act. The man silently opened the folder and took out a sheet. On the sheet was my address, but the apartment was listed not as 12, but as 12/0. Anna Act said, "You accepted a closed shipment without verification." I said I was forced to. She replied, "No, you were invited, you confirmed." I started to get angry, but she raised her hand. "Don't argue now. It's not important who is at fault, but how many points have already confirmed the object." She listed them. Courier, your signature, the management company's app, your neighbor, the second address at your friend's. 5 confirmations in 24 hours is a lot, she said. I asked if everything could be canceled. Anna Act looked at my entrance. Cancel? No. Localization is possible. They went up to the 12th floor with me. At the white technical door, the man with the folder stuck a gray tape with the inscription, "Closed pending verification." Anna Act ordered me to open my apartment, take the box, and not look toward the technical door. I asked why. She said, "Because if you see that there is a handle there, you will want to check." I looked anyway. A handle really had appeared on the white door, an old brass one, like in Soviet apartments, and below it, a small plate, not a 0. The plate was blank, but I realized the number hadn't manifested yet only because Anna Act had arrived in time.
At home, the box was on the table. The old handset was lying nearby, even though I had left it in the sink. Anna Act put on gloves, inspected the label, then said to the man, "The transfer went through a retail delivery, not a pickup point. That means it's looking for a responsible resident." The man wrote something in the report. I asked what was inside the handset. Anna Act replied, "Not a device, a tether." She explained it dryly, as if reciting fire safety rules. There are places that shouldn't be places. They hold on as long as there are 3 things: a document, a witness, and service. They had the document, the order, the witness, you, the service, the courier. I asked why they needed this. She said, "They don't have a why, they have a route. The system tries to keep serving what it once started serving." I asked about the boy. Anna Act looked at me differently for the first time. "Who told you about the boy?" I answered, "The neighbor." She closed the folder. Don't drag up old cases. They like it when they are remembered. The man drew up a refusal of responsible storage form. I had to sign it. I already hated any signatures, but Anna Act said, "Better to sign the refusal than to be listed as the recipient." The act read, "I, Ivan Kowalski, confirm that I am not the owner, tenant, representative, or responsible party for Apartment 0. I do not accept keys, acts, or shipments. I do not speak the full address, and I do not initiate repeat deliveries." I asked why there were so many strange formulations. Anna Act replied, "Because formulations are more important than intentions." I signed. As soon as the pen touched the paper, my regular intercom buzzed in the hallway. Anna Act said sharply, "Don't pick it up." The ringing repeated. Then the old handset on the table rang, even though the wire was cut. Then the phone. Then Anna Act's phone. Then a small pager in the man's folder vibrated. All these sounds merged into one long, painful crackle. Anna Act took the gray box without opening it and put it into a black bag with a seal. The man walked over to the white technical door and pressed the act sheet against it. Someone tapped back from behind the door. Once, twice, 3 times. I wanted to move away, but my legs wouldn't obey. A child's voice came from behind the door. "Mom, has the courier come?" Alina Kunis screamed behind her door. Anna Act didn't even blink, only said to the man, "The seal," and she stuck a second gray tape across the first one. The child's voice repeated, closer now. "Am I allowed to take it?" Anna Act turned to me. "Say, the address is not being serviced." I said it, but she grabbed my shoulder. "Say it calmly, not the full address, only the phrase." I barely squeezed it out. The address is not being serviced. It became quiet behind the door. Then something heavy slowly slid down, as if a person had sat on the floor on that side. Anna Act said it once more. I repeated, the address is not being serviced. She didn't demand a third time. The ringing stopped immediately. The silence after it was so thick that I could hear the faucet dripping in the kitchen. Anna Act took the act, the box, and the old handset. Before leaving, she said that for a few days, echo deliveries, notifications, calls, phantom couriers, and strange SMS codes were possible. Don't open, don't confirm, don't argue with the courier. It's better not to approach the door at all after 11:47 p.m. I asked what would happen to apartment 0. She answered, it will move to where it is accepted again. That sounded worse than any curse. The next day, my address in the delivery app corrected itself to apartment 12. The order history disappeared. The sticker on the door faded. The mark from it was still visible, but not as clearly. The management company called and said that no inconsistencies were found regarding my request. They couldn't issue a statement about the non-existence of apartment 0 because the object of inquiry was not found. I asked if I could get a written response. The woman said, I wouldn't advise it. Aluna Kunis stopped saying hello to me. Or rather, she would say hello, but look not at me, but at the white door. A week later, the handle disappeared from that door. The plate too. There was just a normal, smooth surface like before.
I had almost convinced myself that it was all over. Almost. Until one evening, I ordered groceries. A normal order. Bread, milk, eggs, cat food. Even though I didn't have a cat, a friend had asked me to buy the food. The courier arrived quickly, came up, handed over the bags, and I signed for it. No oddities. But when I closed the door and unpacked, I found a small gray tag at the bottom of the bag, just like the one on my keychain. Only this one didn't have a 0 stamped on it. It had 0B pressed into it. I held it in my hand for a long time and couldn't understand why my fingers felt so cold from a simple piece of plastic. Then my phone vibrated. A notification came from the delivery app. Thanks for receiving. The next order will be passed on through the responsible student. I didn't understand the phrase. I didn't understand it then. I only understood a month later, when Yana Butt wrote in the district chat that an extra class had appeared in the school next to our building. A class that wasn't on the schedule, but was in the electronic register. And for some reason, my number was listed as the first contact on the parents list.